Okay, today we are playing a game on VoD. We will be playing Moira the entire way through, and there is no SR for today's game because it was a quick play game. We are also on the console today, so consider yourself forewarned. So, let's start the game. So we're only going to be attacking. I was going to say only going to be attacking first. No, only attacking. So we're already using more resource than we needed to be, because nothing's happening out here. We've been healing mostly nothing. The idea might have been to just put the regen on people, in which case we still need to use more resource than we had to. Because that just takes half a second to put the regen on people. You don't need to be spraying longer than that. Didn't need to use the healing orb right here. We're kind of hurt, but I mean, we're only missing 50 health when we start using that orb, and like, nobody else is actually hurt. Fight at that point, the enemy team were starting to back up. Here, just throw the damage orb as soon as it comes up. It came up in time that we might have killed D.Va right here, because if we throw it, like, right now, it only needs to do, like, a tick or two to actually kill her right here. So throw that boy out faster, then we realize to throw it. Doomfist did that. That's what you get, pushing through strange orifices when you've only got, like, 5 health. Would most people call a doorway an orifice? No. But I did. It's the orifice for the building, okay? Look. Shut up. Leave me alone. So, very unusual place for a fight to break out on the map, isn't it? In the fucking house over there. Didn't need to use that healing orb at all. Everybody's full health. That orb got no value at all right there. And we could have used the orb right there to try and save that person. Use the healing orb here to save ourselves. I understand. But at the same time, I'm still going to complain because by this point, Mercy's healing us. And McCree started backing up. Fade also came back up, so we could have used that to try and escape instead. So, I'm not particularly upset we used the healing orb right there. I would have probably done it as well. But, by all accounts, probably didn't need to. So we got Coalescence built up, but Roadhog's right here. Using Coalescence right in front of Roadhog's a risky business. I just don't, it's just not worth using to try and save this guy, because he's pretty fucked, to be honest with you. Like, by the time we decide to push it, like, he's so low, he's looking at Roadhog. Roadhog's gonna get that guy. To be honest with you, I'm also just thinking we're gonna win this fight probably without Coalescence anyway, because that Coalescence, it didn't get us any value, really. We used it mostly just to try and save Hammond, which wasn't going to work, and outside of that, the fight was going well on the point, so we didn't really need to use Coalescence. Anyway. So we captured the checkpoint regardless, and you know, like I always say, if you don't get punished, you don't have to learn. I don't want to use the healing orb really like that, just because, like, nothing's really happening over here, and, like, the angle on that is extremely unlikely to work out because of the shape of this doorway. Like, you don't usually get to bounce the healing orb straight through. So, the reason to use the healing orb in, like, this kind of situation would be to save resource more than anything else, because, like, nothing's really happening right now. Like, there's nothing happening right here that we wouldn't be able to just heal through with the left click. So, like, the only reason to do that, really, would be to save resource, which we didn't need to do because we still had a bunch of resource. Because the fight hadn't even started yet. Soldier's using tack visor right now, which is why we're kind of, like, spinning and, like, walking away like that. Yeah. He came up beside us. We didn't see him go back through. We can't see the doorway, I suppose. No, I heard him. I heard him appear next to us right before he started shooting. Yeah, and I'm quite lucky to get that, to be honest. Just barely got the kill on us right there. Wait, we waited for Hammond to come through. I'd still, like... Oh, God. Oh, Jesus Christ. I hate having to, like, fully heal a tank. I'm just, like, watching the bar this whole time, basically. So I don't want to throw the healing orb right now, just because I know this guy isn't... The healing orb, the guy's not going to sit next to it. There's no way. When you're healing somebody like this, where you need to heal, like, a lot of health on a tank, it is better to do, like, bursts of healing, where you, like, heal him for, a second, stop, let the regen take a bit, for like a second, stop, let the regen tick a bit. You heal, it's a little slower to heal the guy, but you end up like saving more resource in the end, because Jesus Christ did we use a lot. If I'm in that kind of situation though, usually, like if I've got to heal a tank up a lot, you just want to use the healing orb, really, because then you can use the healing orb will do most of the healing, and you can save a bunch of resource off of it. Hammond players are wily. It's very hard to get them to actually sit still long enough for you to use the healing orb on them. Please don't stand perfectly still. Oh god, just, like, please put a little bit more movement into it than that. Just like standing on top of the payload, going, whoop, whoop. Makes you very easy to hit. Please don't do that. Standing on top of the payload in general is a risky business. Don't usually recommend it. But like, at least put a bit of movement in other than just like the harping. Healing orb right here, no need. Like, there's nobody in here hurt right now, really. Unless we were planning to just use Coalescence, like, immediately after we threw the healing orb, which, to be honest with you, would be justified to just use Coalescence right now to try and make sure we capture the point. But even if we're doing that, I'd throw the damage orb instead, because again, nobody's hurt right there. So, using Coalescence would have been pretty justified just to try and make sure we capture the point. Boy, Tro does lag a bit every single time, doesn't it? Did we throw the orb? Was the orb off cooldown when we started using Coalescence? Yes, it was. Do try and throw the orb before you use Coalescence, because the orb just sits there doing nothing the entire time we're using Coalescence, so that's like, what, it's like 6 seconds? Yo, how long does Coalescence last? Go back, let me just see the timer on that one real quick. This is something I should know offhand, given how much I play Moira, but I'm very bad at remembering numbers, okay? Yo, how long does Coalescence last, dog? 23. It lasts 7 seconds, 8 seconds. Yeah, that's basically the entire orb it sits there, the entire orb cooldown, it sits there not doing anything. So try to throw the orb before you use Coalescence. Doesn't always work out that it's feasible to throw the orb before you use Coalescence, because sometimes the orb is like 2 or 3 seconds off of cooldown, and like you really want to use Coalescence right fucking now. In which case, you know, don't wait to use the cooldown. Go for it. Even if you can, like, get like an ideal angle on like the throw that you would want, still usually worth it. So be careful using Fade like this to get to somebody that's in critical health, because the thing you have to remember when someone's in critical health out of the way, something happened to them to put them at critical health. So you are now fading closer to the bad thing that happened, and now you don't have Fade anymore. So be careful using Fade to get to people who are in critical health, because they're in critical health for a reason. And you probably don't want to be next to that reason without Fade. Sometimes you really kind of, like, have to keep a person alive. So you, like, do it, but, like, try to avoid it. If somebody's really far away that you want to heal, just, like, use the healing orb instead, rather than fading up to them. That'll usually keep them alive. I'm going back to see why we use the healing orb. Nothing, nobody's really hurt right now. So, again, the only reason to use the healing orb right now, and this would be a legitimate reason if people were a little bit more hurt right now, is we're currently half meter. So right now, we're kind of getting low on our resource, right? And you can use the healing orb to cover while you are regenerating your resource. So, if your team are still fighting, and you're like half on resource, or lower than that even, like, you can throw the healing orb and have it bounce back and forth through your team a few times, and then while that's happening, you're sipping the enemy team, right? The healing orb by itself outputs a lot of healing. So if you're gonna go healing orb and then continue using your own heal as well, to justify that level of healing output, something really bad has to be happening to that person. Because the healing orb by itself is a lot. Moira's left click by itself is a lot. It is very rare you're in a circumstance where both is required to keep anybody alive. And the situations where you do need both to keep someone alive is usually tank fucked up really badly, or team is in graviton, you know, something like that. So if you've used the healing orb, it is better to try and use that time to get some of your resource back, unless you really do need to be outputting a lot of healing. Because we threw the healing orb right there, and then just continued using our healing spray as well. So we just end up now being basically out of resource. Oh yeah, we just threw the healing orb right there. Not an ideal angle. Ideally, you don't just throw it straight on like that. We're trying to elongate the period the orb stays near our team as much as we possibly can, right? So it's better to like try and get it to do a bit of a zigzag across the room, you know? We're in an awkward angle, because ideally we're like in the room and then we just have it go ping, 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 right? We're not really in that angle. But we do want it to stay like near our team as much as we can. So getting it to going like that, it's gonna, well, it doesn't move like that, does it? A straight line, like so, straight enough. That's gonna leave your team behind really quickly. Just try and get like a zigzag going, if nothing else. It'll elongate the time it spends next to your team a little bit more, if nothing else. And again, like, right, we throw the healing orb and then just continued spraying for a little while. Try and sip someone. We're really low on resource at that point. That's when we want to try and get our resources back. They're fucking dead. We're fucked at this point. Right there, we threw the damage orb over at those people, but we're like almost out of resource. So that would be a good time to throw the healing orb. It's gonna bounce it around the team a little bit. Start sipping so that we can regenerate some of our health. That has to have been the wrong orb. There's no way that healing orb ever gets any amount of value. That has to have been like the wrong orb thrown. See, again, we keep doing it, you know. Right, we threw the healing orb right here. I wouldn't throw the healing orb right now. We're full resource right now. This is where I throw the damage orb, because we're trying to generate as much ult charge as we possibly can at the same time, right? So we want to throw the damage orb as much as we possibly can as Moira. It doesn't always shake out that we can do it constantly, even though that's the dream. Ideally, we'd never throw a healing orb, unless we absolutely had to. Jesus Christ, I want to be killing people, not healing people. God damn it. Why'd you think I picked Moira? But, like right now, we could just throw it at the enemy team and get some ult charge out of that. Because it's just 200 damage it's going to do to them for free, right? And then we can heal our team with the left click. And that's how you spend your time a little bit more efficiently, right? Moira's ult charges really quickly because she can be damaging people and healing people simultaneously, right? So if you're like high on resource, try and throw your damage orb unless you like really need to keep somebody alive, right? And then while your damage orb is ticking on the enemy team, you're healing your team, you're sipping the enemy if you get the opportunity still, because you throw the damage orb and still keep sipping as long as nobody needs healing, right? Like, you throw the damage orb, someone needs healing, the healing takes precedent, but you can throw the damage orb and keep just sipping the enemy team as well. So when you're high on resource, use the damage orb. Unless you really need to output like a lot of healing right now, in which case use the healing orb. But again, those are pretty rare circumstances. When you're low on resource, try and use the healing orb and sip the enemy team. The healing orb will keep your team alive while you're recouping some of your resource. Try not to use the healing orb and your your left click unless you have to, because that ends up being like really bad for like your resource management when you do both, which we keep doing. We like keep using the healing orb and then continuing to use our healing spray at the same time. It's almost always overkill. Here we've got a Genji bouncing around on us with Dragon Blade, so we got out, but we're like, fuck, I'm gonna use the healing orb because I'm scared right now, which is entirely fair enough with a Genji. Are we even actually healing right now? I think we're healing Hammond. Is Hammond hurt right now? I can't tell. We're in him. Yes, but I still don't want to commit that much resource to it. And then we throw the healing orb as well. Like, he's not that hurt. This is a situation where we can let a lot of the regen do the work right here, or hopefully Mercy heals this guy. Like, again, we use a lot of resource. Then we throw the healing orb after we've gotten him to full health. And then we continue left-clicking as well afterwards. So that's about the worst possible series of events for resource management. So, you know, you did specifically mention in the email that you feel your resource management is... I have trouble managing my healing meter. The orb is a large part of this. Like, healing orb, it'll keep your boys alive. It puts out a lot of healing per second, and that's your time to be recouping your losses. Also, generally, try and let the regen take care of as much healing as you can. And try to avoid doing this where you're just, like, holding down left click for, like, really long periods of time. It's better if you can, like, have the regen ticking on people, and then as the fight goes on, you're kind of like... Because, like, right now, and this is, you know, there's a lot of moments in a fight where this is the case, but this is, like, a specific moment, as soon as YouTube agrees. Right here, we start healing people. Nobody actually needs healing right now. The fight is actually still happening, but everybody's fine. So we could be sipping for, like, not a lot of time, but we could be sipping instead of healing for, like, half a second in there. And that, and if you can, like, do that, where you, like, identify, alright, we are fighting, but nobody actually needs healing, and you take that time to get in just, like, half a second sipping somebody on the enemy team. Doing that over the entire course of a fight ends up adding up over a game. Even though it's like, you end up thinking, like, I only sipped that guy for, like, half a second, what's the big deal? The thing is that you learn with, like, any hero that has resource management, like, what's 100 health on Reinhardt's shield, right? Sometimes that's the difference between having your shield to block Earth Shatter and your shield breaking in front of the enemy Reinhardt. So, like, Moira is the same way. Sometimes just, like, finding the 0.5 second periods during a fight where you can be sipping instead of healing is also important. So we use Coalescence right here. That's fine, to be honest. We could have thrown the orb. This is where I'd throw the damage orb at the enemy team, because I'm planning to use Coalescence on D.Va right now. But the other way you take this is throw Healing Orb at D.Va, and then try and coalesce the enemy team. But that's less likely, as... I'd throw the damage orb at them, heal D.Va, and then start using Coalescence on the enemy team. Try and throw the orb before you use Coalescence. If you can, you know, don't hold your Coalescence if you're, like, gotta wait on the orb cooldown or something, like, you know. Sometimes, like, a second is fine, but if your orb's on, like, 3 seconds or something and you want to coalesce right now, just fucking do it, but... Yeah, try and throw the orb, because otherwise that's, like, almost an entire orb cooldown where it wasn't doing anything, you know. Don't want that. We want to try and be as efficient as we can. Moira's this way as a hero, where there's a lot of, like, micro-optimization stuff you can do, right? Don't need to use the healing orb right now. This orb is going to get extremely little value. This is also the thing with, you want to try and bear in mind when you're throwing an orb, right? How much value am I going to get out of this orb, right? Because the healing orb will do 300 healing, potentially, maximum, right? And the damage orb will do 200 damage maximum. It is always extremely easy to get the full value out of the damage orb. It is frequently difficult to get full value out of a healing orb. In fact, you almost never do. Like, the healing orb, usually bounces off before it can get the full 300 healing out. But, unless it's like, a lot of people need healing in the middle of a team fight. But you want to try and think, like, if I use the healing orb right now, how much is that really going to do healing-wise, right? Like, if I throw it at this guy that's missing 100 health, is that worth it? No, I could just spray him for half a second and then let the regen take care of it, and then I could throw the damage orb at them instead. And then I've gotten 200 damage out of the damage orb instead of... like 50 healing out of the healing orb, right? Because even if a guy, like, is wounded in the middle of it, I throw the healing orb at him, I'm still going to spray him as well to put the regen on him, right? So, try and bear in mind, like, how much healing you could potentially get out of the damage orb. This is not always important, because if you're throwing the damage orb for, like, resource management reasons, you don't necessarily worry about that, because you're throwing it to cover your team while you recoup your resources. So you're not necessarily bothered about getting the full healing out of the orb at that point, because it's more about getting value out of your, getting more resources. Why are we almost out of resource right now, actually? I feel like I looked away for half a second and we've run out of gauge. No, we're still out of resource, but back way the fuck up. Alright, back way the fuck up. Why are we out of resource? So that's unnecessary. He's fine. Like, just put the regen on that guy. There was no need to keep healing him. It was just the damage orb. He's out of range. Didn't need to do that. And, like, that matters as well. Where, like, he's out of range. You might go like, well, I barely used any resource right there, so it's not a huge deal, right? If you spray for like half a second and it didn't do anything, that stopped the timer on your resource starting to regen naturally. So even if you're like, oh, I only started spraying for like half a second and then stopped, I wasted like no resource on that, you still stopped the timer on the regen, so it still ends up adding up. Could have recouped a little bit off just the natural timer waiting for him to get in range. Again, like, I get it, but he's gonna be fine. Mercy's tethered to him. Just put the regen on him, let it take care of him, because, like, we're really low on resource right now. Healing orb, like, this is fine if we were in a position to sip the enemy team. Because, again, we could justify throwing the orb right there as being, I'm low on resource, I'm going to throw this to keep my team alive while I recoup resources. But we're not in a position to sip the enemy team, so that... and they're not even in a position to be, like, doing any damage to us, so that healing orb ends up doing pretty much nothing. I actually didn't see us throw that orb again right there. Like, just like doing that, right? Like, we wasted some resource doing what we did just here. Just spraying people a bunch of times right now. Come on, YouTube. You can do it. I know you can. Like, we end up wasting a bit of the resource, but again, we end up resetting the timer. Doing, like, the half-second spray resets the timer. It stops the natural regen on it. So, you know, even though you might be like, I didn't waste anything, still try not to do it, you know? Try not to, like, interrupt the timer if you can avoid it. Another thing with this healing orb, I get it, this is fine, we're almost dead, but I'd rather we threw it the other way. Because we don't want the healing, again, we want the orb to be around our team as much as possible. We're winning this fight, our team's going to be wanting to go that way. They're not going to want to be going back towards the door, right? So I want to throw it off to the right instead, so that it can follow our team as they're advancing in, rather than just bouncing off towards the door like that, and now it's gone, right? So it could hopefully get more value out of it. Here we're almost dead, so, you know, fair enough for the healing orb, and then we start using Coalescence immediately afterwards, fair enough also. This is where I stop healing the D.Va, and I get it, D.Va's not full health, we want to keep her alive, I understand, but two things. D.Va's basically full health at this point, like, she's fine, she's mostly full health, and if she loses her mech, frankly, I'm not too heartbroken. Genji's going in with Dragon Blade right now, so I want to start doing damage to the enemy team as quickly as possible, and then hopefully that makes it so Genji, like, me coalescing the enemy team might be the difference between Genji killing somebody and Genji not killing somebody. Why did we use Fade? Because of that. We end up fading the wrong way, though. That's unfortunate. Because we didn't have Fade to dodge that Earth Shatter, which is why I went back to C. We did start getting drilled by Tracer, so I understand, and then we faded the wrong way, which, you know, life is hard. You know, do be ready to try and dodge Earth Shatter when you're playing Moira, because Fade is really good for that. Do we need anyone? We could justify it because we're recouping resources right now. I'll let it go. Nobody was really hurt, but we can justify that one as we're half on our gauge. We then, you know, keep using the spray regardless still. But that's a recurring thing. It wasn't like an ideal angle for it either. It would have been better going more inwards into the hall, because again, that's the way the payload is going to go. We want the orb to follow where our team is naturally going to be going, so that it stays around them as much as possible while we're using the healing orb. So, oh damn, you got it again. Very scary. Yeah, we're doing our best, but look, it's not looking good at this point in time, right? Like, it's not looking good. So I was just looking at the email again. I feel like my prioritization on who to heal isn't effective, and I believe I have trouble managing my healing gear. To be honest with you, Moira prioritization I find is very rarely actually an issue. Because everything she does is AoE, so prioritization is usually not a big deal for Moira. You're usually healing everybody kind of by happenstance more than anything else. I do agree that the management was a big issue. Just try it, like, the biggest thing is just, like, using your healing orb to cover your team while you're recovering your resource. Just like using the orb and your spray is like bad resource management. And basically you want to try and be sipping as much as you can to recover your resources. In the middle of a fight, you know, if nobody's actually hurt, take that time to sip. You're usually gonna get like a second tops in the middle of a fight before somebody does need before someone needs you to start healing them again. But I mean, that's still some resource you recuperated, right? So this is Moira. It's about getting all of these efficiencies out of the fight as you can. Getting all of these opportunities where you can sip the enemy team, where you can let the regen take care of the damage instead. When you're low on, you're never going to be full resource the entire game. It's not feasible. So during the times you are low on resource, you use your orb to cover while you're recovering your resource, or you let the other healer take care of it if they're in a situation to do so. Because sometimes there's only like one guy on your team is hurt, and Mercy's already healing him. Not worth using the orb to cover that guy while you're sipping the enemy team, because Mercy's already doing the job the orb would be doing. So that's when you just start sipping anyway, without using the orb. And you can throw the damage orb at them if you want at that point as well, right? Like, it's those kinds of things that end up adding up. Moira is about a lot of these micro-optimization kinds of things, where you let the regen do it, and sip for half a second, and then over the entire course of a game, they end up adding up, you know. Try not to interrupt the timing on your resource regenerating by spraying for half a second, right? Yeah, sometimes you're going to do it because you're going to be like, oh, I thought that guy was going to take damage, he ended up not taking any damage, you know, whatever. Like, life happens like that, but, you know, try and have self-restraint, and don't just, like, spray people randomly. If you have to heal a tank, like, from, like, low health to full health, try and do it with, like, bursts, and let the regen take care of it as much of it as it can, because just, like, holding left click on somebody for, like, multiple seconds is going to tank your entire resource immediately. Or just use the healing orb. Like, the orb will heal most of a tank, right? So just do that if you can as well, rather than using a bunch of resource on it. I'd rather use the orb cooldown than, like, half my gauge on a tank most of the time, because, like, the gauge is a lot more versatile than the healing orb is, right? Like, the gauge I can have perfect control over because it's where I aim it, right? The orb is at the whim of the physics engine. and it's cooldown gated. It's way less versatile than your spray is, so I want to try and maintain that gauge as much as I can. Anyway, let's try not to repeat ourselves like 7,000 times now. Look what we got. So Angry Joe's fine. Recommend. Fairly entertaining video game coverage kind of stuff. White Light's good. Very long form video game essay stuff. Magnet Muscles I only really recommend because of what happened, which is just disasters in video games and movies. Spiffing Brit's great. Very funny, entertaining. All video game exploit stuff, but he's very funny, very entertaining. H-Bomber Guy's very funny and entertaining. Mandalore Gaming is funny, entertaining. He's a video game reviewer, also good. Max is fighting games, and then don't watch any Overwatch videos, so I can't tell you. And I don't know where it's come from, to be honest with you. And Northern Light is my favorite YouTuber. So there you go. So thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. More than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation about them, or just shitpost with us. I start streaming on Twitch Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, 8 p.m. EST to 11 EST. There's a link to the channel in the description. And if you managed to make it all the way through the video and somehow still enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe for more content of middling quality in the future. And I hope you found the video helpful.